Hi, this is a quick video to go over tab settings using Microsoft Word. Tabs are the most underutilized and probably misunderstood tool in Microsoft Word, but they can make your setup of a document truly streamlined. So just a couple things as we get started here. First, notice that I have the ruler turned on. If you haven't gone through the chapter yet, that will be in your View ribbon and Ruler. I typically leave mine on all the time because it allows me to see my margin markers as well as any tab settings. Now, there are half-inch default tabs that are in every new document that you create, and they are there until you set a tab somewhere on that line. Now, note that I've got a lot of text here. I'm just going to talk you through a few settings so that you can understand the differences. So one of the things that always confuses students is they say, but I set a tab. The problem with tabs is that it will only go into effect for the line in which your cursor is placed. So notice that my cursor is blinking here on the first line, and so I'm going to set a tab using the ruler. So I'm going to go over here, and normally that's set on left, but I had just, there we go. That's normally how it starts. So it's already set at a left tab, so I can just bring my little pointer over here and I can click on, let's say, the 3/4 inch mark. I got to move a little bit, there we go. And then I get a left tab. So now if my cursor is blinking here, so my keyboard, I just press tab, and notice that I move to the 3/4 inch mark. I have a tab setting arrow here, which is displayed because my show hide button has been selected. Now, the dilemma for most people is they'll go down here and they will try to do the same thing as far as press tab, but notice that when I press tab, it only goes here and then it starts to split my margin instead. So I'm going to undo that. I'm going to come back, and if I want a tab set for more than one line, I must select those lines before I set the tab. Okay, so try to remember that. Where your cursor is where the tab, that's the line that's affected, or the paragraph. But if there's multiple paragraphs or multiple lines, you have to have them selected. So I will just go up here, and I'm going to set this one at 1 inch so we can see there's a difference. Now notice here, there's my 3/4 inch. If I come down one, I go to 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch, but nothing happens to those lines. In fact, I don't have to use that tab unless I want to, but once I press the tab button on my keyboard, it moves me into that tab marker. So what happened there is it got rid of that half-inch default that would have normally been here. So when you have multiple lines of text, what you have to remember is select and then choose your tab settings. The other way that you can go is using the paragraph launcher, the tabs button to get to the tabs dialog box, and you can set multiple tabs here. So I have 3 columns of text there, so I'm going to set a tab at 1 inch. It'll be a left tab. I don't want any fancy marks, so I'm just going to say set. And then I want another one at 3. And then again, left or not. Maybe not. Let's do a center tab on that one, and we'll say set. And then this one, I want it to be a right tab because I want those numbers to line up, because that's typically how we do numbers that are in a column, is typically we use a right tab. So I'm going to change that to right, set, and as soon as I click OK, because these items already have tabs in them, I'm going to say OK, and they adjust to my tab settings, and notice where they are up here. If I decide, gosh, that doesn't look very centered on the page, all I have to do is leave it selected and then drag that tab to where I think I might want it, and it will adjust. 3 inches isn't my center, so 3.25 is. And then 1 inch, that's about right. It looks halfway centered, especially if I turn off my show hide. Okay, it's not perfect, but that's all right. Notice though that this number backed up because it's a right tab. So if I add a digit to this one, notice that it went backwards because it's a right tab, it's aligning at the right edge. These last 3 lines, we're going to pretend that they're table of content lines, and so these I want to have some leaders. So my eye follows the leaders across to the number. The only place I can set a tab leader is in the tab dialog box. And so I'm going to come up here and I'm going to set 2 tabs. One for the first indentation on these words, and then the second for the numbers. So I'm going to set this one at 1 inch, and it will be a left. And then over here at the right, I'm going to go over as far as I can. So I'm going to go 6.5. And I want that to be a right tab so that it'll back up similar to what this did. And then I'm going to use the tab leader selection. Choose set. So now I have a 1 inch, a 6.5, and I say OK. Now, this is great. It lined up at the 1 inch, but what happened? It's not using this one because I haven't pressed tab at the beginning of any of these lines. So once I press tab, notice that it adjusts and the tabs work beautifully. So now that we have that done, just a couple of last pointers here. First off, if you want to remove a tab, you can do it from the tab dialog box, or you can do it from the ruler. It's pretty simple. If you just click somewhere on that line that has the tab, I'm going to click on the first one here, and if I just click on that L and drag it off, it goes away. But notice, remember, we said 1/2 inch intervals, and if there's no tab set, then those 1/2 inch intervals come back. So notice now it's tabbing here. I can override that, set another one, and then it adjusts. There's no more 1/2 inch default tabs here. You can also do that on the tabs dialog box by clearing an individual tab, or if there are multiple ones, you could clear all. So the other point that I wanted to make is typically all of my lines have enters, and that means that I can adjust a tab on a line, an individual line, and it'll take effect and not affect the other ones. Your textbook will point out to you as you go through your activities that they'll encourage you to use the new line command here so that when you change your tab, it changes all the lines without having to select them. Just some food for thought as you start to use your tabs. Good luck.